Welcome to the Fearless Happiness Podcast, where we showcase phenomenal individuals who have overcome serious traumas, life obstacles, and challenges to find their own path to fearless happiness. Listen as Max Njist invites guests from all around the world to share their experiences and spread strength, hope, and faith. This is the Fearless Happiness Podcast, and this is Max Njist.
All right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is Max coming back to you again with the Fearless Happiness Podcast. And yes, I'm going to say it because it's true. All of them are, but I have another amazing and special guest joining me today. I have been blessed with all these guests, so yes. But what I like to do, Kerie, is have you introduce yourself to my audience, like who it is you are, what it is you do, and then let's you and I have a great conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, Max. And thank you for having me here. I feel very, very privileged. So who am I? I'm someone that came from a place that wasn't very happy and wasn't very pleasant and was full of fear, like most of us. And I, over the years, have become a fearless, happy person. And what I do is I'm a clinical certified hypnotherapist, been doing this for over 20 years, been voted the best for Salem, Oregon for the past 14 consecutive years. I'm an empowerment strategist. I am also a human consciousness guide, helping people get unstuck, what is your set point and how to get you to be liberated and find happiness. And then I'm also an author, podcaster, blogger, you name it. If it's going to make the world a better place, I want to do it. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, Max.
I love it, Kerie, right? That's why we're here together, right? Because you and I want to make this world a better place. But no better way than here on my podcast is showing you off in your story, right? Because people just heard that and went, okay, I want to know everything that she just said, right? And I know we only have a certain amount of time, but I like to do is go back and share what brought you to where you are today, those challenges and struggles and all those things that made you who you are today, right? Because now you help people get unstuck.
Yes.
And you and I were talking a little bit this before the podcast, right? And I think you agree this world is stuck in a rut and it's not very good. But so tell your story and like where it all started. You go as deep as you want, but give the audience an idea of like the things that have shaped you.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing that really shaped me, like all of us, was my environment, my upbringing, religious, views, and feeling like I was a square peg in an environment that was full of round holes. I never fit in. And I did grow up in the Bay Area in Marin County. And at the time it's still beautiful. It's still great, but there's parts of that area that are just homeless people, crime, violence. You can't walk down the street anymore at night like I used to in my 20s. And it's really unfortunate and sad. And so I had to do a lot of work on myself. And I'm very blessed that at such a young age, like around 9 or 10, I actually told my parents, I want to go to therapy. I need to work on myself because I realized when someone would touch me, I would start shaking and crying. I was terrified of people getting close to me because I experienced so much abuse as a child. And so I read lots of books, like Healing the Shame That Binds You, Codependency. My favorite was The Dance of Anger because I did not know at the time my dad was a vulnerable narcissist. And not many people know what that is. He would guilt trip me like so bad. Like if I didn't say please and thank you and like show extreme gratitude for the smallest thing, oh my God, you were like punished. You regretted it. You just felt like crap. So there was constant shame, shame, shame. And nobody wants to feel that. Nobody does. And so I had to learn to set healthy boundaries. And that was a huge pushback because they don't like boundaries. Oh, they hate boundaries.
Right.
I didn't even grow up in a home with boundaries. So me discovering boundaries was the very first step. Then two, it was me then having to find my voice, speak up for myself, stand in my truth. And that was a huge pushback, huge pushback. I mean, I was threatened so many times to be disinherited that finally I said, just do it. Do it. Tired of the threats. Just do it. I don't want your money. And so, and I grew up feeling like the black sheep in the family. And now I'm like so proud to be the black sheep. I'm like, yes, I wasn't going to conform. I wasn't going to, you know, kiss, I hope I can say this, kiss someone's ass that wouldn't appreciate me kissing it anyway.
Right.
And yeah. And so I just really had to come in my place of power and learn how to set rules and boundaries that worked for me. Because that's the thing is a lot of people have a misconception about boundaries. They're there to keep you safe, to keep your sanity and give you peace of mind. And even though it was very hard because, like most people, I had that misconception that all parents should love their child unconditionally. I mean, you created me after all. But
Right.
then I realized through my training, through mental health and trauma, that if you don't have it modeled to you or given to you growing up, you don't know what that is. You've never experienced it. You've never received it. You've never been loved unconditionally. And so that was what I grew up with was conditional love. Well, I'll love you if you do this for me. Well, I won't love you if you do that.
Right.
And and so it was hard because a lot of kids and even teenagers and adults, we want so much for our parent to love us and accept us for who and what we are. And if they never got that, they can't give it to us, period. Not unless they learn how to do it. And many of them, they think some people even think that being vulnerable is a sign of weakness. Stop crying, man up.
Right. 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 Well, thank God that I learned in my recovery that vulnerability was a strength. Right.
Oh
My
yeah.
father was a very wise man, but I love what you said, right? Because, if we're taught a certain way growing up, because, like they say, monkey see, monkey do, right? We're
Yeah.
watching our parents. And if our parents are doing a certain thing or raising us a certain way, we think that's norm. That's the way it's supposed to be, right? And you're correct, right? So we can't break those generational curses if they continue to happen. But in your case, you finally realize like enough is enough. This doesn't seem right. Which I say when I hear this, you're one of the lucky ones, right? That was
Yeah.
able to gather the strength. And I love how you say boundaries is for us, right? Like for me, right? To protect myself and to make sure I'm okay, right? When other people go, those boundaries are for everybody else. And I'm going to try to cross your boundaries because they don't apply to me. And you're like, wait a minute. No, this is for me
Yeah.
and they apply to you. And if you can't stick to my boundaries, then, right, I've had to do that with certain people in my family and let that be known. It's not for you. This is for me. And if you can't follow my rules, right, then
Right.
tough on you, right? Like deal with it because I'm not gonna bend because for years I bent, right? I was the people pleaser that would bend those rules all
Yep.
the time. But I love hearing your story, right? Because I had a guest who also has been a therapist for years, right? But hers was her mother and trying to break, and she came from the South, so trying to break that curse, right? Where because the South is a little bit different than everywhere else, where I think everybody's proper, yes ma'am, no ma'am, and
Yes.
you don't talk back and you do what your mom tells you. And she said that took her a long time too. So I have a special place for you and people like her and all of us who have gone through that. Not so much me, I shouldn't say that, because my mom did the best she knew how. She was very loving, just wasn't very affectionate growing up. So I didn't learn how to be affectionate till later on, right?
Right.
But it's interesting to hear your story because, like, when was that moment, right? because it sounds like your dad was very loving, but in a conditional way, right? Like, I'll give you this if you do this for me, right? And if you love me this way, I will love you this way, and blah, blah, blah. When was that time in your life? And how young were you when you finally realized this? This is not love. This is not cool. This is not for me.
Well, actually, it was both my parents that were super toxic, my mom and my dad. And I used to, this sounds so wild, I used to pray to be an orphan. When Annie came out, that movie Annie, oh, I wanted to be adopted so bad. I did. I could not stand my family. I could not. And it so confused me because I would see this, and then even the religious aspect. My dad was a strict Christian, and I would see him read the Bible twice a day, attend all church functions, but then beat his wives and his kids. And I was just like, it confused me. I was so confused. And I saw my mom that was so broken by domestic violence, and it was just heart-wrenching. And I think the turning point for me was, I'd have to say probably when I was in high school, and I became more of an observer of life. I didn't want to I didn't want to conform. I mean, just period. I didn't like a lot of the students. I wasn't big into sports. I didn't like the two-faced gossips. And so I kind of put it, I became friends with the misfit kids,
Oh,
the
I love
punk rockers, the people that were in the school radio, people that were different, and I loved them, and they were just so cool and fun people. And I'm like, hey, be your authentic self, really just be your authentic self. And I really realized that I would rather have 5 really good friends that care about me than 30 or 50 people that just don't give a crap.
right.
Yeah. And I've read books that most people wouldn't, read. I was reading books, about your word is your wand, and spiritual books, and, creative visualization, and reading about meditation and going within. And so that was kind of I was a bookworm. And I loved music, and I loved going dancing, and so I kind of just created my own little world within this big world that we
Right.
live in. And I remember, and this was really fascinating. So I grew up in an area we called the Canal, and it was the lower class, poor class area. And I would walk to school, take the bus, and there was one kid I was friends with, and we would play soccer all the time. This really great Hispanic guy, really great friends. And one day he reached out to me, and he was like, why did we never talk when we were in high school? Why? I always wondered about that, because we would, play soccer and have fun for hours and hours after school, but we never socialized at school. Why? And I said, because you got on the football team, and you became preppy, and you became popular, and I didn't like any of your friends. Period. I did not like them because they looked at me as an object that they just wanted to get into bed. And I wasn't going to do that. I didn't want, I wanted something meaningful, not superficial. And I
Right.
said, so you and I did not align on the same level. You fit in. I refuse to fit in with that crowd. And so that's why I still honored our friendship, our relationship. I would smile at you in the hallway and stuff. But no, if I had a conversation, one of your buddies would have came up and just creeped me out, put his arm around my shoulder like, "Oh, who's this?" No,
Right.
I just didn't want any of that drama. So I left it alone.
Wow.
Yeah, so I did a lot of, work, and in college I studied psychology, and still that kind of just didn't fit with me, because I don't like putting people in boxes, and I don't like putting labels on people, because I always say labels are for jars, not people.
Right. I like.
Yeah. And so that's where I, started studying about, codependency, the about shame and all this areas, different areas, because it fascinated me. I wanted to understand why people were the way they were, why people are mean, why people are, destructive and so angry and spiteful. I knew somehow deep inside there was a better way. I wanted forgiveness. I wanted acceptance. I wanted compassion and patience and all of that. And I knew somehow that I had to embody it first. If I want it from someone else, I need to be the living example of that.
Right. And there's a lot to say about that, right? Because I know when I first got sober, the hardest thing I had to do that my sponsor taught me was, especially after my last relapse, I was beating myself up pretty bad. And he's like, dude, forgive yourself.
Yeah.
God already has, right? And for some reason, when he said it that time, something in my brain just clicked. Like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe that's why I've been doing drugs, because I haven't forgiven myself for this, or that, right? And we dive into the work, and just I'll always have to say this is not a plug for any 12-step program, but that work I did helped me uncover my authentic self, or get back
Yeah.
to getting back to my authentic self. And right, because I can relate to you, right? Growing up in high school and junior high, I was the guy like you that didn't fit in. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. And sometimes I
Yeah.
didn't feel like I fit in with my own family. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so during the punk rock era, here's a funny story, right? So my aunt, I love her dearly, but our grandparents took us to the circus when Barnum and Bailey Circus was in town one time, right? I think I was in, I want to say ninth grade or eighth or ninth grade, one of those. But anyway, I was in, I had the mohawk, right?
On.
I would wear the long trench coat with the boot, holy jeans with like a chain with a lock
Yep.
on it for a necklace.
Yep.
And my mom's like, your aunt's gonna love this. I want you to sit right next to her, right? I'm like, so I go, I sit down next to her and I put my arm around her, and she looks at me. She's like, oh my God, who is this? Like, you need to sit over there. And I said, I'm your nephew. You can't be like that in front of everybody. But my point is like fitting in, like as I went into high school, like I ended up fitting in with everybody, the jocks, because I love football, right? So maybe not all of them, but most, like the older guys I would fit in with. My grade, like not so much. I don't know. For some reason, we didn't get along, but I would hang out with the stoners because yes, I was a pot smoker back then, and the punk rockers or the heavy, and it was
Yeah.
like I was playing the chameleon to whatever I felt like I didn't fit in. I could find a group that would accept me for that moment. And I would, but I had to learn that that's not cool, because everybody's going to look at me like, well, 1 minute you're over here, 1 minute you're over there. And so then, as I go through the recovery process, I'm, like you said, that deep dive into finding out who I am has led to moments like being here with you and hearing your story, right? Which I'm hearing a lot of similarities as I was growing up.
Yes.
Like, I relate to Kerie so much. When you mentioned punk rock, I was like, yes, fellow punk rock, fellow punk rocker. And we're not talking some of the punk they have today. I'm talking like the old school punk that you and I probably know about.
Yes.
Like the Black Flag and the Dead Kennedys and
Yes. And when there's Beastie Boys.
the Beast, well, they're the first, right? Like punk rap
Yeah.
group, and a lot of people thought they were strange in the beginning, right? But
Yeah, and I was big also into Depeche Mode, and that, they just blew up, and people still love 80s music. I mean, the music in the 80s was fabulous, and even in some of the 90s,
well, I think you'll agree with me. The 80s were the best.
Oh, yeah.
I think by far, like of all the eras so far, right? Like we can always go back to the 80s and find things that we related to or had a good time with. Like now I'm just like, I'm so hopefully my grandson doesn't hear me, but I'm so tired of like Nintendos and
Yeah.
because they're stuck on it. And I mean, we're all guilty of being stuck on these at times, but it's just everybody's checked out. But let's get back to you, Kerie. So
Yeah.
as you're going through college and going through psychology, what was those moments that you said, I want to like, well, how did you come up with like, I'm going to be a hypnotherapist and I'm going to help people? What was
Well,
that? Go
that's
ahead.
interesting. Yeah, because I actually did a YouTube video about it because too many people kept asking me and asking me. I'm like, fine, I'll just do a YouTube video. And it's a fascinating story because I was a single mom living up here in Oregon, and when 9/11 hit, the economy up here just tanked. Couldn't get a job. Literally could not get an I got laid off, struggled trying to get another job, was going to become homeless. I was running out of my second round of unemployment benefits, and since I have a spiritual background, went to see a friend. She gave me a reading and she's like, everything you've done up here, you've completed. The perfect job is waiting for you in California. It's what you're meant to do. It's literally your destiny. And I was like, I can't afford to do that. I'm a single mom. I don't get child support anymore. I can't do that. She's like, no, this is your calling in life, and the job will be handed to you. Literally, it's what you're here to do. And like most people, I didn't want to believe her because that's a huge, I got to pack everything up, drive all the way down there, all that. And I got to the point I was going to be homeless, and there was no way I was going to be homeless with my daughter. So the state did make me an offer that they'd help me put my stuff in storage. They'd pay for it for like 8 months or something, 10 months. And so I took their offer and I called a family friend in the Sacramento area and I said, hey, this is my situation. Can I look for a job down there? And they said, sure. So literally a week later, I think it was, I got a call from this guy that said, hey, I really want to meet you. Can you meet me at this new center that we're building in about an hour and a half? I really want to meet you. So I get there, and it was a new center being built by Positive Changes Hypnosis. And I was like, yes, I know all about hypnosis, meditation, guided imagery, visualization techniques. I know this stuff. And he gives me a tour of the facility. And when we sit down in the conference room, I have this 3-inch binder, literally full of letters of recommendation, everything. I'm like, hey, you want to see my portfolio? And the guys said, nope, I already knew I was going to hire you the minute I read your resume. The job is yours. You want it, you got it. And so she was right. It was handed to me. And the beautiful thing is the owner wanted me trained in hypnotherapy. And so he paid for my certification. I got training by the best, Patrick Porter. I mean, this guy's brilliant. And so trained in weight loss, stop smoking, addictions, pain, hypnobirthing, cancer, personal change, you name it. I did so good there in, what was it, 2004. They gave me an award as the best coach of the year out of 65 centers. So I was good at something. But then, oh, and I got trained in NLP through them too, which is great. Neuro-linguistic programming. And so here's the kicker is the week before Thanksgiving, I got in a disagreement with the receptionist. And I went to my manager and I said, I think she's trying to get me fired. And she said, actually, she is. And here's your final check, Kerie. And I was like, what? It's tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I'm the best one here. I got 3 months of clients booked with you guys. You just gave me an award this year. How can you do this? She flat looked at me and she said, she's family and you're not. So
Oh,
you gotta go. And I was like, no way. No way. And so I went home and I prayed and I was like, God, if this is my calling, if this is what everyone says I should be doing for a living, then give me a sign that is so clear I can't mistake it because I love what I do. And I know I am so good at this. And so when I finished praying, I called that woman, I left her a voicemail, and I thanked her for firing me. And I told her, I'm going to look back at this as a blessing in disguise. So thank you. I have no bitterness or resentment towards you at all. Thank you. Very next day, a client comes over that is still a good friend of mine, and she felt really bad. She said, I am so sorry this happened to you. I don't understand why they're doing this, but I've been sitting on this nest egg and I want to give this to you because you are amazing at what you do. So I opened the Thanksgiving card, and inside it was a check for $10,000.
Holy moly.
Yep. She looked at me and she said, I want you to start your own business. And the other thing that was beautiful is Patrick Porter and his brother Michael are the ones that started the whole company. And Michael was my district manager. And when he found out what happened, he was just like, Kerie, the universe had to kick you in the butt because you were so loyal and dedicated to us, you wouldn't have left. And even he said to me once, he's like, I've met hundreds of hypnotherapists. But when I learned about your spiritual side, that was the cherry on top. You should have your own business. Even he was trying to, he even gave me $500 worth of free software to start my online business. He's like, you're amazing at what you do. You really should do this. So it's like the universe just had all these people come in and support me with what I was doing. And so I'm truly blessed having, that opportunity because it did allow me to help people now, worldwide.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think, in my humble opinion, right, I think your success came because you've always been open to that next chapter, right? Like you
Yes.
fight it, like some of us. And I raise my hand because sometimes I'm that person where I should go say yes, but I get so fearful that I say
Yes.
no, and but we'll have a talk after this because like this is very, very one, inspiring to me to have you here, and two, to hear, right, that the challenges, I like to call them challenges, struggle, whatever you want to call them, but it's those things, right? Because you learned from each one of them
Yes.
what to do, and then it made you a stronger person, right? And but you have your foundation, you have your spiritual foundation, you have, I mean, well, you were a single mother, and you know what I mean, you've had your challenges as you've gone through life. But so let's talk about what led to your book and what's your book about. Or two books. There we go. Let's hear about the both books.
Yeah. The first one I wrote in 2012, and that's called Affirming and Focusing on Living a Better Life. And so that one's kind of interesting because I channeled that book. And it was kind of wild where I woke up one day and I was told by spirit, you're going to write this book. And here's the table of contents, and go sit in front of your computer and start typing. And I started typing and started typing just what I hear, typing, typing, typing. And I sent the information to one of my friends.
Excuse
You
me.
should drink some water.
I am, and it's making me choke. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So I shared it with one of my friends that has a background in mental health and social worker, and she's like, "How do you know all this? How? You shouldn't know any of this. This is part of my continued education training. You're not a psychologist or social worker or even counselor. How do you know this?" And I said, "This is everything they were telling me. Everything they were telling me about us as people, understanding our thoughts, understanding our emotions, understanding the power we have within us. We are literally an energetic being having a human experience, not the opposite." And what was so fascinating is when I got to chapter 2, understanding the power of our emotions, I channeled what I teach now, which is human consciousness. And I was guided to break up like all our thoughts and emotions have a vibrational frequency and set point. And I was told to go online that science actually backed this information. And I was like, what? And I did. I found Dr. David Hawkins, who did the map of human consciousness. And when I tried to reach out to him, I found out he actually died that year.
Oh,
So a
wow.
lot of people wondered, did you channel him? Because he never really completed, I feel, his work. Because to me, this is so crucial and important for the whole of humanity. Because if you have any religious or spiritual background, you've listened to anyone channeling, everyone says the path to full enlightenment or ascension is through consciousness. You have to become what you seek. And I believe that is what Jesus was trying to teach all of us, is how to be kind, compassionate, peaceful, loving, harmonious people towards ourself and others around us.
Right.
Literally, that is what he was trying to teach us to do. He wanted us to enter the kingdom of heaven, which isn't a place, it's a state of being, a state of embodiment. You're one with the Christ consciousness. You realize there is no separation. You are a divine being. I am a divine being. We're all here to remember who and what we are.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what's sad? Because I mean, as I've gotten older, I'm starting to understand what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
But I think because just of things that have gone on in the world, right? It's
Oh,
like
I know.
something is trying to cut us off from that divine light, which we,
Yes.
and I had a mentor, a friend actually, he asked me how to pray how do I pray? And I said, well, I pray on my knees. And he goes, well, look, he goes, it doesn't matter how you pray, right? Because God is with you in here. You just got to learn
Yep.
to tap into it. And I was like, wow, okay, so I can pray in my car on the way to work and have this conversation. Someone might think I'm going crazy, but that's okay, right? But it's, I love what you're talking about, because I'm on that mission too, is like to help people who have gone through addiction, right?
Right.
Find their way back. As I don't, you probably come across it and seen, well, we've talked about earlier what it looks like in the streets of San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
And other places, obviously. But I think it's so important for people to understand that they are a divine being, and they just have to get back to their foundation and excuse me, open up their minds to there's more out there than just what they see and can, you know what I mean? Because
Well, I look at it is when we're born, we're like a ball of clay, and we are molded and shaped by our environment, our parents, culture, religion, society, teachers, friends, peers, all of that. We're molded, molded, molded. And not until we leave home and start to have our own life do we start to question authority. We question our beliefs. We start to question things like, does this harmonize with me or not? And I
right,
like to look at it is what we're doing when you start to go within and look at your pain stories and clear that garbage. It's like a snake shedding its skin.
right,
You're literally shedding that crap that doesn't serve you anymore. You are not stupid. You are not incompetent. You're not, you're not broken. You're good enough. You matter. You're important. You're significant. You don't have to be stuck in a bleak and hopeless world, or sad, or grief, or regrets, or disappointment, or jealousy, or envy, or even like egotistical pride. All of that, all of those sins we call sins, live in 3D human consciousness. And all this information is on my website for free. So since you work with people with addictions, which aligns to 75, it looks like this.
okay,
So you go to the website and you go to mastertheupperrooms.com, free stuff, free images. What you want to do with everyone you're helping is to get them up into 4D human consciousness. And the very first step is courage. It's healthy confidence. It's where you feel secure and safe. It's where you're feasible and flexible. It's where you can solve problems, because you can't solve problems down in anger.
Oh no,
You're going
we
to sabotage yourself. Every time someone is mad or upset, what do we say? Chill out, dude. Calm down, get grounded. Because what they're telling you is to get into 40 human consciousness and line up to 250, which is grounded, balanced, centered, adaptable, confidence, unattached to outcomes. You're realistic. You're not a daydreamer. You're not stuck in the past. This is your place of empowerment. So I tell people to start off by mastering baseline, which is the frequency of 200 to 250. Every day, practice doing something different. When that negative inner voice or critic pops in, tell yourself, that's the voice of the past. What do you need from me? Why are you so angry? Have conversations. It sounds weird with yourself, but here's the truth is those are your wounded parts trying to get your attention anyway.
right.
And you've been ignoring them. They're wounded little children trapped inside of you, stuck, that need your compassion. They need your forgiveness. All the tools we need to give ourselves exist in 4D human consciousness, which
Right.
is self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, self-compassion. Be patient with ourselves. Stop beating yourself up.
Well, we are our own worst enemies at times.
Yes.
Right. But that's what leads into what the audience, I want you to understand. This is how she helps people thrive, right? By helping them through this process. And I like what you said, right? Because like Napoleon Hill even says, right, our thoughts become things,
Yes.
right? And I know he meant that in a good way, but that's also for the negative. If we're so negative, like
Yes.
you said, I cannot, when I'm angry, there's no solving anything because I'm just so, it's about me, and I'm pissed off
Yes.
and I want to just, rip your head off because you're not seeing it my way. But then I've realized when I come, pause when agitated and I come at it, calm down, then
Yep.
I can listen better and not to respond, but to listen, as my friend would teach me, is listen to understand,
Yes.
and then when I can understand where, for instance, where my wife is coming from, I can communicate with her better. But if I'm pushing my agenda, of course, she's going to get mad because she's not feeling heard and I'm being a jerk. Right.
Yeah.
And, that goes same into my, as an addiction counselor, if I'm going into a session where I'm going to do this, this, and this, I'm already blocking the client out or the patient or whatever you want to call them, right? Because I have my agenda when
Correct.
it should be the other way around. Like just listen, be empathetic, and right. And I love it. So
Because everyone has their pain story. That's what they're doing. When they walk in, they tell you their pain story. And the thing is that pain story doesn't have to define you anymore.
right,
And so the second book that I wrote actually was about what I call my journey of the dark night of the soul. Horrible experience where I'm the author of The Undetected Narcissist. My pen name is Angela Meyer, and I did a podcast and blog post series for 3 years on narcissism. But here's where I was different, and I was inspired by divine grace to write that book, coming from a place of wisdom, understanding, compassion, forgiveness, and eventually unconditional love.
right,
And that was not an easy book to write. It was not coming from that perspective because in my healing journey, everyone I found was coming from hate, anger, fear, hate, anger, fear, hate, anger, fear. You can't heal, Max, coming from hate, anger, and fear. You need to have understanding. You need to have, why did they come out this way? And that was the most beautiful thing is one night I'm lying in bed and God said to me, do you know you humans create these people? And I was like, what? And it was like, look it up.
yeah.
And I went online and I looked it up and I was like, holy cow. Well, if you're complaining you don't like these people, then we got to learn how do we create them and how not to create them because they are created 6 ways. The 6 ways they're created is trauma, child abuse, bullying, authoritarian parent, neglectful parent, and absent parent. So did you hear the 6 ways they're created?
Absolutely, loud and clear.
Good. I want
Yeah.
everyone to know that, okay? And it's so unfortunate they're created that way. It is. And so I'm actually literally starting season 4 next month because enough people were like, I love your work. I love your stuff. It still gets over 100 downloads every week. And what got it for me was a 70-year-old man was following someone religiously that's very popular in the narcissist arena. And she posted something about, should you forgive the unforgivable? And she said no. And he was like, what? And my whole perspective is, yeah, you need to. It literally is toxic. It is in your cells. It causes so many problems. There's a whole book by The Secret Language of Your Body about how our emotions and thoughts are toxic. Those
Right.
negative, it poisons us. And he said he was at his church praying to the rosary and like, God, help me find someone that, aligns with you and this and that. And then he's like, I found you. And it was like, bingo. He's just, so I literally am doing an episode of how to forgive the unforgivable because I've done it myself. I forgave my dad. I forgave my son's father. I've forgiven everyone I could possibly think of because I want to be so clear as a person to not have that stuff pollute my body anymore.
Right, because we carry that toxic
Yeah.
in our body at a cellular level, like,
Yes, we do.
right. And when I hear you talk about that, it makes me think about, because I'm trying to build a better foundation, right? I've got the 12 steps, so I try to read, and because I've never read the Bible, but I've hear bits in here and there, but not like some people where they say
I've never read it either.
right,
Yeah.
I've read it back and forth and this and that, but I've got some interesting. The one thing that always sticks out, right, when we talk about forgiveness and someone says I can't do it, right, and I think about, well, if we're going to be more Christ-like, right,
Yes.
look what he went through. And even right before he passed, right,
Yes.
he said, please forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. And like,
Yes.
he'd already forgiven them for the
Yes.
horrible things he just went through, right? And I've been guilty of it too, but I personally try to be as forgiving as I can. I know I'm human, right? There's certain things that I find that's not forgivable for me, right? Like in a children, abuse of children, obviously it's hard,
Yes. Yes.
but but other things, right? Like the wrongs that have been done to me, right? When I realized, when I did get sober and I cleared my brain out, I'm like, how many times did I hurt these people? So of course I will forgive them for what I think they did, but hopefully they'll forgive me. But that's not the purpose, right? It's like you said, clearing out that junk so that I
Yeah.
can, be here almost 22 years later, still sober because of that work and forgiving. One thing, number 6, stuck out to me, right? Because my dad and mom divorced when I was young, and then I didn't see my dad for years. So this is a little bit about, to the audience out there to know about me. But when you mentioned that, it's like I saw him. I think I was about 5 when they divorced. I wouldn't see him again till I was about 10, right? And then he promised, see, and here's the thing about forgiveness, right? He promised, I'll be back for your birthday. I was 10, getting ready to turn 11. Birthday comes and goes. He doesn't return. And then, like, right after his birthday, I think it was in April, I get the, my cousin, or we get the call that my dad passes of a massive heart attack. And from that point, like, I think that's I've realized that was a big part of my addiction, is because I drank and used at him. Like, how dare you break that promise? Right. And then when I got sober, my sponsor said, you need to forgive that dad of yours.
Yep.
Right? You need to forgive him so you can move on. And so you can eventually be a dad again. Cause I did the same thing to my kids, but mine was worse in my eyes because I would be in the same city, but I was so into my addiction that I wouldn't even see my kids for 9 years. But long story, like, I hear that, and it's true, because if you hear her, everybody, if you hear what Kerie's saying, forgiveness is not for the other person. That's for you.
Yes.
It's for you to clear away that junk that holds you back from being, like I like to say, I've heard in the past, the best and most elite version of myself, that I can be closer to and for me, God, and be better for the people around me. Right. So
100%. Well, and I want to prove one point because yours passed away, but mine is still alive, my dad. And so there was a pivotal point after I did all this forgiveness work and really worked on myself, that when my older brother passed away and I went to California to help clear out his estate, my dad was there. And I saw him and I was like, "Hey, how you doing? I hope you're doing well and stuff. This is so unfortunate. Rob passed away, but I'm here to help out for the week and everything. So it's good to see you." And I go upstairs and my dad looks at my younger brother and is like, "What is wrong with her? Is she on drugs? She's happy. She
right.
should be yelling at me."
Right.
And I had no stories. I literally cleared out all those pain stories out of my body. There was nothing to cling to say or be guarded or hyper vigilant. It was like, you mean nothing to me. You're just a dude. That's it. You gave birth to me. That's it. That's all you signify is a person. And I can treat you with decency and respect just as a person. I don't consider you a father figure, but I consider you just a person now.
Right.
And it was so freeing when my brother shared with me, "Oh my God, he thinks you're just weird because you're happy and you're smiling." He's like, "He doesn't get it." And I said, "Yeah, because he can't hook his claws in me anymore. He can't shame me or make me feel bad about myself or question who I am. I could give a crap about this guy." It was so empowering, so liberating. It was like a breath of fresh air, Max.
Well, because now you're not being held back by any, like him or
Yes.
yourself, right? From the anger and the resentment, right? Because those are very powerful emotions, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah. And this dude gave me every form of abuse you could think of, Max. Every. And not just once. So
right,
there was layers and layers and layers I had to work through and clear out. It did not happen overnight. That's why I say it's like a snake. You peel it away. You go through life, something else happens, you peel some more away. And it's really just giving yourself grace along that whole process. So anytime anybody ever triggers you, that's your opportunity to go within and be like, "Hey, get quiet, grounded. Why did I get triggered by that? What memory is stuck inside me associated with that trigger?" Because everyone is a mirror reflection of us.
right. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Man, this has been a great time, but now I get to ask you some questions that I want to ask,
Yes.
right? So we'll start with fearless, same as the podcast in my book. We'll start with fearless. What does fearless look like to you today, Kerie? And how does that show up in your life on a daily basis?
It's me just honoring my authentic self, literally living fearless. And sometimes I've learned that silence is golden. When I'm around a toxic person, it's not worth my breath of air to sometimes defend myself or argue with them or whatever. I just accept them for who they are and I let their comments float on by. So that's fearless to me. It's like, you can't touch me anymore.
I love it. We all need to take after Kerie, everybody, a little bit more. That
Well, let
leads,
me give you this point.
go for it.
When that person triggers you, here's what's really happening. Think about it as seeds are blowing in the wind. You grabbed their seed and you water it with your thoughts,
Right.
and
Oh,
it grows roots and it festers. You got to let that shit float on by, Max. You
I
got to.
love it.
They're
You and
not
I
worth it.
are gonna talk after this podcast. Yeah, she's laughing because she sees my face. Like, I bet she's got questions for me. I do, but let's let's continue. But happiness, like going through everything you've gone through and where you are in life today, knowing I put a Y in happiness. What
Yes.
does happiness mean to you, and how does that show up in your life on a daily basis?
Happiness to me is just feeling one with everything. I mean, one with nature, one with animals, one with my family, my husband, my kids, one with my clients. It's just it's it to me it's just ultimate freedom and limitlessness. Even when there's chaos going on in the world and everything, I can't control any of that. I can only control me. And
Right.
so I make the choice to embody happiness every day. Find something that's going to bring me happiness. Even if I get in a funk, hey, happiness is a choice.
I love it. I love it. Well, Kerie, you and I could spend hours here, like, because there's a bunch of questions
Oh,
rolling.
I hear that all the time. Everyone that interviews me, like, oh, I could spend hours talking to you. I want to pick your brain. I'm like,
Right. I mean, you're amazing. So
thank you.
definitely, we might even bring you back and to help the audience like later down the line. But if my audience wants to get a hold of you, they want to work with you,
Yeah.
they need your services. How do they get a hold of you?
Well, the easy way is a lot of people can Google my name because it's spelled different. It's Kerie, last name Logan. I'm on Master the Upper Rooms, and on there I do offer a free 15-minute consultation. So you want to talk to me, let's see where you're stuck. How can I help you? And if I can't help you, I'll tell you. I'll be flat out honest. You can find me on Instagram, Master the Upper Rooms. You can find me on YouTube. I'm also on the Insight Timer meditation app. Bunch of free stuff on there. Just look up under teachers, Kerie Logan. And I do have the Undetected Narcissist. That's under Angela Meyer. And then my first main business was Empowered Within. And that I've got a bunch of I got over 900 different MP3 downloads, a bunch of stuff just to help people that are stuck in life and want to live a better life. And I do custom recordings and all that stuff. So that's
Love
me in
it.
a nutshell.
I love it. Well, this has been a very, very awesome time with you today. So thank you for being here. I loved every moment, but you're not quite off the hook yet. Now I get to ask you my favorite question that I ask all my guests. And it goes like this. So, Kerie, what is the one piece of advice that you could give my audience to help them grow as human beings and become better people?
To really realize that when you're around dysfunctional people, that you still have a choice. Think of their words as seeds. And when something triggers you, that's your key right there to become so self-aware and don't grab onto that seed. Let it float on by. Because when we grab it, that's what they want you to do. They want you to doubt yourself. They want you to suffer because that's saying hurt people hurt people. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. Yeah, so stop hurting yourself. Let their nasty weed seeds float on by.
I love it. I love it. Well, like I said, this has been an amazing time, Kerie. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And you heard her, everybody. If Kerie taught you something, if Kerie made you think, if Kerie made you smile, and my famous, if Kerie made you go, I like that, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review so more people can find the podcast. And again, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is Max from the Fearless Happiness Podcast. Until next time.
Are you tired of being weighed down by life's traumas and struggles? Join the Fearless Happiness lifestyle and let us guide you toward a brighter future. Explore our past podcast episodes and get a copy of the Fearless Happiness book to ignite your inner strength. If you or someone you love is battling addiction or facing challenges related to unresolved trauma, know that we are here for you. Visit maxnijst.org, maxnijst.org, and take the first steps toward finding your fearless happiness. Thank you for listening. This has been a production of Fearless Happiness.